It's the Sports Peninsula podcast. Coming up, we continue our coverage of the 2023 NFL Draft prospect classes as we look at the linebackers. This is a prospect class that has depth, but if the Detroit Lions are considering one of these prospects, they may have to look at day 2 or day 1 for a solution. We'll give our analysis next. Now, here is your Sports Peninsula team. Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is Dave Drzezinski. Drew, it is Tuesday, March 7th. And we're talking about the linebacker class of the 2023 NFL Draft. And joining me to discuss the linebackers is, of course, Coach Andy Shield, Marine City Mariners. Coach, how you doing?
Drew, doing well. We're moving right along, getting right through these position groups. And this is one that I know you and I speculated throughout the season quite a bit, that it would be something that they would be looking to maybe enhance via the draft. Things started to materialize a little bit in that second half of that season, and it was less of an issue. But definitely, I think some of these are prospects the Detroit Lions could be interested in. And definitely the NFL at large will be.
Yeah, no question about that. I mean, this is again, it's a prospect group where I think as a Lions fan, you're certainly intrigued by, because I wouldn't say there's a great need at linebacker, but let's face it, Alex Anzalone is a free agent. Alex Anzalone had a great year last year. However, is it realistic to expect that for the next 2 or 3 years? I don't know. Malcolm Rodriguez, love the guy. He's going into year 2. And after that, you're thinking they certainly need depth. And there's other guys that are playing linebacker, of course, especially when they're in 3-4 formats. And even Aiden Hutchinson can stand up in an outside linebacker formation. And Romeo Core has done that, Julian Core, etc. But yeah, it's a group that they really do need to address. Now, the group got a lot better adding Rodriguez and adding Hutchinson up front, and McNeil and the gang, of course. But, again, Coach, I'm excited about this group, and I'm really excited to start talking about them. What about your thoughts going in?
Absolutely. And, you hit the nail on the head with Alex Anzalone. I mean, he did have a great second half of that season, really kind of showed to be the, kind of the captain of the core as far as linebackers were concerned. Will we get a repeat performance of that, or will we be a little bit, day late, dollar short, kind of looking like a more of a special teams ace that maybe he presented at times when he was in New Orleans and that kind of thing? You would like to think that he's grown into his seasoned veteran self and that he'd be worth an extended contract. Malcolm Rodriguez, have we seen the ceiling? Is this who he is? If it is, I mean, it's a nice football player, but we would certainly like to see some growth there as well. Chris Board, I believe he's also a free agent. He was brought in to be more of a special teams ace that ended up playing a lot of linebackers. So I think we really, Lions fans, should be interested in this linebacking group, because I think there's a real distinct possibility they're going to add to it. I don't think it would be day 1. I'm not sure how many linebacker candidates there are day 1. We'll be getting into that here very shortly. But I think day 2, certainly. And day 3, I think for certain. If they haven't addressed it on day 2, I think it'd be very likely that they do so on day 3.
Yeah, I would agree, Coach. And you know what? Let's just cut to the chase right now. Let's start talking about these guys. And let's first talk about Drew Sanders, the junior out of Arkansas. I know you're excited about him as well as I. Let's talk about him. What do you like about him?
Big 6'5", 232-pound third-year player out of Arkansas. 5-star high school prospect, originally committed to Alabama as an edge defender, and he was there. He was there as an edge, playing alongside and with Will Anderson Jr. in that group. In high school, he played quarterback, tight end, wide receiver, defensive end, and linebacker. Very, very versatile athlete. State of Texas boy. So, I mean, if he's playing those positions, especially those positions, skill positions on offense, it's kind of intriguing athletic specimen. Very fluid mover and a big, long frame. He really can. He can condense like an edge, on the perimeter, and he really can move through into a gap real smooth. Really kind of a non-bothered mover, which gets guys to where they need to be quick, which is the name of the game. excellent disguiser of alignment. He can show, he can stack, he can do all sorts of different things that the better linebackers are able to do. He can stand behind there and hang behind a defensive tackle or a nose and sift through things and be patient and fire a gap that way. He can kind of move around and stunt. He can show like he's coming one gap, then he'll eventually wind up back stacking. He can do all sorts of things, disguise blocking schemes, and that's an intriguing talent to have. Great initial read steps, allows for his physicality and explosiveness to really take fold. He's a little bit of a narrow-hipped guy, but he really is an explosive, powerful tackler. This is a real intriguing prospect that some people have shown us looking as high as maybe the 18th pick going to the Detroit Lions. I think he's certainly worthy of a first-round tender, but we shall see if that would be at 18 or not. But Drew Sanders is one heck of a prospect, Drew.
Yeah, just taking a look at him right now, just very, like you said, fluid, just dangerous. And I really, really do like him. And he's really climbed the board. Look at this. I mean, just.
Yep, that was more of kind of an edge look, but he took that inside knife and he's got the head fake nuances. This is a quick, athletic guy, and you can see we could hybrid him a little bit as an edge. So I know we are very enamored with the edge defender and adding to that position group. Perhaps you add, linebacker and edge defender and a guy like Drew Sanders.
That's what makes this guy really intriguing at 18. I'm no doubt about that, Coach, and really like him a lot. I know there are a couple of things, few concerns here. Let's talk about those.
Got a real lanky build. He's really, really lanky. He, against a real big, bulky offensive tackles, real big, bulky offensive lines, he could struggle. He could struggle. Hankering in on that. He could battle leverage issues. Guys that are big, tall, long guys, I mean, they don't have natural leverage. When we get into the defensive tackles, we can talk about a guy named Kalaje Cansey that is instant leverage. Aaron Donald is instant leverage. A guy like Drew Sanders is not. He's big and long. He's going to have to bend and get those hips and butt down to be able, or get that butt down and bend properly to be a leverage football player. And he needs to process a little bit faster in the run phase. I mean, if he wants to stack and if he hangs and ends up being kind of a dweller on the second level, and we're going to get into what that means a little bit further down the pike. But if you're always in the second level, that means they're always getting 3, 4, 5-yard gains on you. And you definitely don't want to be a guy that's always making his plays on the second level.
Yeah, you're 100% right, Coach. I'll tell you what about Drew Sanders. Me personally, I want to see more tape, and I'm really curious to hear some more of the feedback after the combine, after the pro day, which will be coming up soon for Drew Sanders, because you bring up a fantastic point. I think straight up, just as a linebacker, good player, but maybe not at 18. The fact that he is versatile enough that he could possibly take some reps at defensive end, and certainly is an outstanding blitzer. Wow. And he's a rocked up dude too. I mean, he's a long guy, but man, he's rocked up. Wow. I am very intrigued by Drew Sanders. Not saying I'm all in for the Lions to take him at 18, but I'm with you. They need to consider Drew Sanders because he could help a lot, especially if there's some surprises in this draft, which inevitably there will be, right? So, I mean, it always happens. So let's take a look at the next prospect, Coach. And this is the guy that everyone's been talking about, and that's Trenton Simpson, the junior out of Clemson. What are your thoughts?
Well, those that are big draft gurus like Dave Druzinski and people like that, this is the name you've been this is the name you've been seeing at the top of the board from the linebacking group, really for about a good 10 months now, for those that kind of start messing around with this right around the time the college season starts. Trenton Simpson's been the guy at the top. 6'3", 230-pound junior out of Clemson. He's played some really good football, obviously, in his career. He's a 5-star high school recruit, and he comes from a military family background. So there's some discipline. He's had to adjust. He's had to do some moving around in his life. There's some processes that he's been exposed to as a young man that undoubtedly will serve him well, in his college football career and as a student, and definitely into his professional career as well.
Sure.
He earned a degree in 3 years from Clemson. He's got a bachelor's degree in communication in 3 years. That's tremendous, feat and honor.
Yes, it is.
That's something right there is worth mentioning. He may have gone in with some AP credits and a handful of college credits under his belt, but nonetheless, he was able to achieve a 128 credit hour degree in 3 years.
That's outstanding.
And that's playing college football at the highest level too. So that is very impressive. Plays with great adaptability, and he plays with extreme scheme versatility. He can really move around in different fronts. He can be a Mike backer, a Sam backer, a Will linebacker, and the 4-3 schemes. He can play both inside backers. He can play strong side or a weak side. Really, if you did a 3-4. He has the ability to be in a 4-2 or a 3-2 look, like in a dime or a nickel look. He could also be a guy that, would be more of a gap shooting 3-3 style. So, Trenton Simpson's played a lot of different alignments as a linebacker. Brent Venables, he did this with Isaiah Simmons and some other guys, and really Trenton Simpson's kind of the replacement for Isaiah Simmons. He'll put him as deep safety and drop him off into a third that way. So, he's played a lot of different techniques.
That's impressive.
He's a very, very modern linebacker set. This isn't you're not going to mistake him for Mike Singletary or Dick Butkus or somebody or Ray Lewis for that matter. He's got more of the modern skill set, which is to be able to defend the run and be a primary run defender, but be able to defend the pass just as well. He's shown some really explosive finishing through blocks and tackles. He's a big hitter. A lot to like in Trenton Simpson.
Yeah, let's take a quick look at Trenton Simpson, because he's definitely somebody that can perform at a high level and
close right there. Man, did he close?
He is talented. He is talented.
Here's another look at that play right there. He gets downhill in a hurry. That defensive tackle was putting that rush on, and he was probably about a step and a half away. Trenton was a good 6 yards away, and he closed and made that play right on him. So Trenton Simpson, is really got a gear to him that is to be liked.
He does, Coach. I'll tell you what. We had a gentleman with the Detroit Lions a while ago, number 36 in your playbook, Benny Blades. He was a safety, but he often disguised himself as a linebacker, and he was similar in stature to Trenton Simpson. He was about 6'2", 6'3", 220, 225. And he could play. He would step up and play linebacker on occasion. That's what I like about Simpson, because he can do that and drop back. We saw Kyle Hamilton last year, a safety, get drafted who could play linebacker. It's nice to see a linebacker that can drop back. The Lions haven't had a guy like this that can drop back in coverage. I'll say since DeAndre Levy. He was a very good linebacker in pass coverage, but I think Simpson has a lot more to offer physically than even Levy did. But there are some issues here, possibly, Coach. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, he doesn't offer you that classic stack linebacker playability. He like we said, he's not Ray Lewis. He's not Brian Urlacher. He's not Mike Singletary. He's not Chris Spielman. He's not that kind of a player. He's not an A to C gap linebacker. He is more of a modern guy that's going to move around the alignment, move around the defense, line up differently. He's going to line up for pass coverage, then play run, then play run over the top of that. It's going to be stuff like that. So he's a little unconventional when you're thinking prototypical linebacker. He can be guilty of kind of hovering. We talked about that with Drew Sanders, just briefly.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You don't want to live on the second level. That is something that yes, you're getting tackles and those kinds of things, but first downs are being converted. field positions being flipped. We're losing on first down if we're living at the second level. So, this is a guy that we want to be able to see process a little bit differently, so he can be more on the line of scrimmage, or fit and fill guy. And he could also fall victim to O-line surge, which tells you that he sits. He sits too much. He sits and sifts too much. He'll get caught up in the wash, so to speak. Get sucked in. I know that's kind of the old term that's used a lot of times.
We're old school though, Coach, so we can do that.
That's right. That's right. So, those are concerns, and those are things that maybe Trenton didn't dispel throughout the year because, he's kind of late day one guy, likely probably day two.
Yeah, see, that's where for me with Simpson, 18 may be too high. I don't think 48. I don't think we'll see him there. And that's the issue. So you're either going to reach for Trenton Simpson, or you're likely going to go another direction. If you're the Detroit Lions, in my view,
he's a very intriguing prospect. Some things can be coached up that could really make him something else. I think you're going to hear his name called very early on day two.
Yeah, I agree. And here's the thing, one man's junk's another man's treasure, right? He doesn't offer the classic stack look like you said, but then again, that's also part of his what attracts you to a player like Trenton Simpson. If in your scheme that's what you're looking for, this guy is it. But yeah, if you're looking for that stay-at-home, sit-down middle linebacker like Singletary, like you said, like Ray Lewis even, this isn't probably the fit. Or a guy we know, Chris Spielman. He was very good in that role as well. But yeah, Trenton Simpson's not that type of player. But oh boy, he's a good one. And like I said, I don't think there's any chance the Lions get him on day two because I don't see him falling to 48. But let's see what happens. But Trenton Simpson's a very fine football player. He's going to be real good in the NFL for a long time to come, Coach. I agree with you. Let's go now to their next prospect. And this is an interesting one here. Daiyan Henley, the senior out of Washington State. Let me say that twice, right? This guy has been, Coach, we've been doing mock drafts for months now, right? And this guy's always showing up on my mock draft board in round 2. And I like him a lot. Let's talk about him. What do you like about him?
He is somebody that's kind of really climbed the ladder early. This was a guy that was kind of blended in at the back end of day 2, really kind of started early on in the cover. You didn't even see his name mentioned. It got kind of maligned and mixed up into the day 3 talk. Then all of a sudden he started popping up, real repeatedly in the 5th and 4th round throughout the algorithms on the different sites. And now, he is across the board pretty much a very early day 2 prospect. So Daiyan Henley is a senior transfer football player out of Washington State, 6'2", 232. Transferred from Nevada. He was a member of the Wolfpack. And he initially played his first couple of years at wide receiver and safety. So this goes to show you his athletic skill set. And really what Daiyan Henley can display is an athletic capacity. Very fast flow player, and you would expect that. That's those, second guys on the secondary move real fast when it comes to getting downhill and factoring into the run, just because they have to trigger and they have to be able to get there. They are the furthest away a lot of times from the point of execution on offense when it comes to a run play. So they really attack it urgently. He does that as a linebacker, and that really has put him in position to make a lot of plays. Has excellent twitch. This is a kid that you can tell played some high school basketball and things like that, and what you would expect from a wide receiver. A guy that played Division I wide receiver is going to be a real twitchy athlete. Daiyan Henley is definitely that. He's got that forward D back wide receiver, kind of playability, and that shows with great coverage and ball skills and pass responsibilities. He's really good in coverage. He's made some real nice plays. He's gotten some picks as a linebacker for the Cougars. Again, another explosive finisher and tackler. I'm telling you what, he's an intriguing prospect. There is a lot to like, and he's an uber athlete. Dane Henley's going on day 2.
Yeah, let's take a look at him real quick if we can here, Coach. And yeah, very very good athlete. Really really like him a lot.
He had a bunch of plays in this
Look at
Colorado
this.
State game. I mean, there he is coming on a blitz. They got stuck. That scheme was real nice. It was wide open. But and it showed he had a lot of plays coming on blitzes from the interior. So, that's definitely something that, that can be, a scheme sub package guy could really kind of be a havoc creator. He's got a lot of upside.
He certainly does. And just looking at that, he's explosive, like you said, and that clip tells it all. But of course, there's some issues here too. What are your thoughts?
Well, he's raw. He's raw and inexperienced as a linebacker. And he's played played a lot of football, but he's played a lot of different positions. So he's got some nuances that probably he's a little bit behind the times on as compared to some other prospects that have really been coached up in the position group. So those are some things that he's going to have to improve upon, and it may take a little time. His best days may not be shown right away. He struggles to stack and hang in the run game, and I saw a lot of clips where I liked what I saw when he stacked. I saw a lot of positive clips, but all in all, he probably is a little guilty of sitting and sifting too long too, which I know that's one of the concerns about Trenton Simpson. If guys that are not downhill and very reactive players that want to sit and watch too much. What did Shooter say? Don't get caught watching the paint dry.
That's right. When you set that picket fence,
and that's what sometimes these guys can do. Dane Huntley has shown that a little bit himself, and he was surged upon and washed out a lot. We didn't see those clips as much. They're there. You see some really awesome plays by some of the UCLA offensive linemen, and Dane Huntley's going for a ride a couple times. So, there's some things, that he's got to improve upon, definitely from a technician standpoint and from the ability to really play in the box.
Totally agree with your synopsis, Coach. This is the guy I've seen multiple times. Almost every mock I read, every mock I participate in, this guy's there in round 2, and 9 times out of 10, I'm grabbing him. Just really like him. It seems like that it's at the first pick too, and at 48. That's the one. It seems like he's there now. Obviously as time goes on, we'll see how the board starts shaking out. But it really seems, I agree with you. Day 2, round 2. This if the Lions are going to grab a linebacker, in my personal view, this is the guy you want if you're going to get that high end guy that could possibly start even this year. Certainly we would expect to be starting within 2 or 3 years. I really like his game a lot too, Coach. A lot to like about Dane Henley. No question about it. So let's go to our next prospect now. And this is a guy we thought was coming out last year. Henry Tuatua, the senior out of Alabama. And I think I pronounced his last name correct, Coach. Did I? I got it. Okay, I got it. Awesome. So we're 1 for 2. So let's talk about Tuatua, because we thought he'd leave as a junior and he ended up staying an extra year. Before we go into it, Coach, you think that helped or hurt his draft status?
I think it may have enhanced it a little bit. He's really, I would say, probably collectively the same. It's not really moved it forward or lost it. I think he was wise to go back and lock down some more school and work on some things there. He flourished really in 2 different full programs. Henry Toa is 6'2", 228-pound senior who started as a true freshman at Tennessee. And he was a first team SEC all freshman team member there. As a second year player, he led the team in tackles before transferring to the University of Alabama. So, I mean, this is a kid that's extremely, extremely accomplished. Since transferring to Alabama, he was outstanding there as well. Really smart, instinctive run defender. You hear the old term that, given the linebacker so many times is he's got a nose for the football. You hear that kind of all the time.
A good thing.
When it goes to good linebackers, Henry To'oTo'o's got a nose for the football. He's one of those type of players, real instinctive, on the run. Very, very productive player. A lot of tackles, but a tackling machine, whether he's in Knoxville or Tuscaloosa. He was a tackling machine. Excellent communicator of the scheme. Kind of the quarterback of the defense. Some traits, and now that's a trait right there that really can make up for some physical misgivings when you can get everybody on the same page, including yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That defense is likely to do a pretty good job. Henry To'oTo'o is really good at doing that. This is a very intriguing prospect, minus his size, in my opinion.
Yeah, let's take a quick look at a clip of him, and
you can see number 10 there. He's not a big guy. He's not a big guy. Maybe some, I guess, notes of Devin Bush, but there you go. You see him going sideline to sideline here, avoiding the horse collar there. Here you see him rallying up and getting a PBU on a tight end screen. He was able to sift that out. That's a really, really good clip selection there, Drew, because that's not an easy play to make. He sifted out a screen to the tight end and was there to tip that away and get a PBU. You saw him make the nice tackle against Florida. He can do a lot. He can do a lot out there.
Yeah, I like him a lot, Coach, much like you do. I think in terms of the Lions, it would not bother me one bit to hear his name called as a Detroit Lion anywhere from round 3 on, because I think that's kind of his range. I don't think he's going to go before round 3, which means he's a late day 2 guy potentially. I don't see him going past round 5. That would really surprise me. To me, I would actually say that something's wrong. But I've noticed, like in mock drafts, typically what I've been going through with him, Coach, is he'll be there, but yet there'll be another guy at a position maybe that was of a greater need that is just ranked slightly high or whatever. Maybe I just personally like them, but whatever the case is, I'm Brad Holmes, right? But I really like to a lot. I think he's a very good football player. I love that he, like you said, he's the quarterback of the defense. Read and react. I mean, unless you're just an uber athlete who is super twitchy and instinctive, I mean, if you're a good athlete and a very smart football player, that says a lot for you too. And like you said, you can make up for a lot of physical limitations. In this case, maybe his size, because he's so smart and has that nose for a football, like you said. But there are some issues. Let's talk about those.
Well, it's really all size related and mass and related. We've talked about how nuanced he is as a reader and how instinctive he is, and how he's really a high football IQ player and guy. He's really falls victim to surge, and what I mean by surge, it's kind of a term. It's a little exclusive to me. It's basically when, you take guards from guard to guard center, guard, and maybe a tackle or a H-back or a tight end, or in some cases a fullback still, bleeding through the interior of the defense and surging up through the second level onto the third level, marching ball carriers in the football behind it. And the 90s Dallas Cowboys was a surge machine, maybe the best we've ever seen. Henry To'oTo'o really, really struggled against that offensive line. Nate Newton, Mark Stepnoski, Larry Allen, Eric Williams, those would be guys he would not be real good with. He struggled with that. He loses that one-on-one movement battle. This is not a guy that's going to take Derrick Henry on and succeed. This is not a guy that's going to oftentimes take on a guy like Hassan Haskins and succeed.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to struggle with a guy like Jamal Williams. He would struggle with that. He's not a one-on-one mono tackler. And, for as good as he is at recognizing things in tight spaces, he oftentimes doesn't make the finisher. He's not the strongest finisher, especially in tight, football and phone booth types places. So that's probably the ding on Toa Toa. That's the concern they have, is that it's not that he's not physical. It's not that he's not smart or instinctive or intuitive. It's that his ability out there physically just gets overmatched too much from time to time.
Do you think it's realistic that he could put on a solid 10 to 15 pounds of muscle and still maintain his level of physicality?
Oh yeah, because I think it's going to be almost immediately demanded from him, because it's going to be almost immediately demanded from him, because he is instinctive. He's so strong mentally. He processes so well. It's gonna be something that is just gonna be asked to do of it. Yeah, he's 10, 15 pounds away from being a different player. Now, will that take away too much from his lateral quickness and his ability to trigger? Well, then I guess his athletic ability would be a little bit indicted then as well. But that's exactly what he's going to need to do, Drew.
It makes a lot of sense, Coach. We like him.
But if somehow he wound up in Detroit, some rumors would probably be dispelled, because Brad Holmes will have seen through a few things. He wouldn't be here if he couldn't bring it. He wouldn't be here if he couldn't bring it. But Malcolm Rodriguez is not a dissimilar size to Henry Toa Toa, but that's simply not a concern that Malcolm Rodriguez brought to the table. He was a finisher. He was these things. So,
he's also a 6th round draft pick too.
Right. So, it's hard to say where Henry Toa Toa could be. I would expect A2 still, but one may never know until the draft.
Exactly. It's never official till the draft's official. So let's talk about the next guy. This is an intriguing prospect, Jack Campbell, the senior out of Iowa. Let's talk about him, Coach.
Well, this is a guy that doesn't hurt for size.
No.
He does not hurt for size. 6'5", 243. He is your old-time linebacker from a build standpoint. He is that guy. He is that big, giant guy in the middle of the defense. He was the 2022 Butkus Award winner. And, Dick would probably be very proud of him, or is very proud of him, because he's built very similarly. Consensus All-American and 2-time defensive MVP. He's a big old linebacker. This is a guy, really, in many ways, he's the polar opposite from a physical standpoint from a Henry Toa Toa. Just an absolute thick, big human being. And what's impressive about him is, he does leverage well, and he fills gaps well. He gets downhill. He can play that A to C game and be real physical that way. But he is really, really good at sifting through the surge. He's the opposite. He's a guy that can live in it and still and sift through it and wind up on top of the ball for like 0 to 1 yard gains. And he is also, in many ways, at least when he was asked to drop in Phil Parker's zone defenses at Iowa, a guy that was quite productive as a pass dropper too. We have some things that we want to say about that too, but when he was asked to drop in zone and play run, Jack Campbell's as good of a linebacker as that we have in this draft. He's definitely in the Drew Sanders category, but bigger.
He's fun to watch. Let's take a look at a quick clip of him, and he's what I like.
He's number 31 there, and you see, and Schmitz tries to finish him off there, but there he is, on a big third down. He came up there and filled hard. You can just see number 31 how big and thick he is. He is. That was a game against
Minnesota.
Roll your boat Gophers.
Yeah,
and there he was getting it done.
Coach, I see when I see Jack Campbell. And when I look at his attributes, I see maybe a like a Leighton Vander Esch type guy. Would you see that a little bit?
Yeah. I think that's a real good example, or a real good player comparison.
He's a big physical guy, like you said. But again, like you said, there's some positives to his game. What are some of the issues?
He's not a top end athlete. He does not have the athletic ability Drew Sanders does. He's clearly not the same athlete that he is. Doesn't play with that kind of speed and twitch that Trenton Simpson or Dan Headley will have shown us. He doesn't trigger quite like that. Just a bigger, heavier player. Not good in man coverage guy in the pass space. Now, he's been very successful on passing downs as a coverage guy, but it's not in man. And in fact, if we were going to be running a lot of man, I'm not sure that's Jack Campbell's the man for you in your defense. He's not a change of direction person. This is a guy that Barry probably would have made an example of had he played back in the late 80s throughout the 90s.
No shame in that. He's the whole league.
Yeah, may have whiffed on LaDainian Tomlinson. And that's going to happen. That's going to happen at this level too. There's going to be someone that's going to shift him out of his shoes, and that kind of thing is going to happen from time to time. But all said and done, Jack Campbell is a really solid prospect. Again, we're talking somebody that's probably a day 2 football player.
Yeah, I agree, Coach, and I think you make a very good point. If to sum it up, if you are looking for that guy you want to build your linebacking core around, I'm not sure Jack Campbell's that guy, but Jack Campbell's a very, very good complementary piece to what you're doing, especially to your point. If you're in zone, and you need a physical linebacker that can do a lot of things. Jack Campbell is in your wheelhouse, like you said. But it's buyer beware. If you are a heavy man coverage team, it might not work for you. Now the Lions are very dynamic. I like Jack Campbell personally. I'm not sure he's a fit. I don't think he's a better fit than some of the guys we've talked about. But I would be very happy if Jack Campbell's name got called in Detroit, because I think that would tell me that they've got a plan for him, and I trust that coaching staff, and I do trust Brad Holmes. To your point, I like him a lot. Would you be in favor of them drafting him, Coach, maybe on day 2?
Absolutely. I think he is a fit. I think he's a player fit. And I don't know what his personality is, but I mean, he seems like a player fit for the Detroit Lions. He absolutely does. He's a little different than Alex Anzalone and Malcolm Rodriguez. He's a big guy. He's a big player. And that being said, maybe that speaks to what Aaron Glenn and those guys want as your type of linebacker. Maybe they don't want that guy. Maybe they want someone that's a little bit more of a modern fit. But to me, they like that skull crusher. They like that guy that gets downhill and is going to, have to wear tape at the bridge of his nose and those kinds of things. And maybe get the cowboy collar out and, that kind of stuff. He's that kind of player. And I would be very happy if they took him.
Definitely like Jack Campbell. Great player, great prospect. Let's talk about one more here that we're going to highlight. And Lions fans, you may recognize the last name, Sewell, but it's Noah.
It's Noah Sewell, the third-year sophomore out of Oregon. Went to Oregon. He's an Oregon Duck, just like Big Brother Penny. 6'3", 250-pounder. He comes from the football, the football family known as the Sewells. And they like their kids going to the University of Oregon, evidently, because this is a second product out of the Oregon football program. Thick, sturdy built guy, real good inside stack linebacker. We talked about Dan Headley kind of struggling with the concept and kind of needing to move around a little bit, just to make ends meet. That's not something you would notice or have a problem with Noah Sewell. He doesn't demonstrate an inability to stack and defend, which is real good for schemes that call for that. Real aggressive downhill run defender. He's old school in that regard. He's an A to C filler. He is going to make his living inside the tackles. That is where he will be best served. And a lot of times, like a guy like a Micah Parsons who can move all over the place. And let's face it, Micah Parsons is the be-all, end-all of linebacker play currently in the league. He's not dynamic like that. He's not going to be able to move out and run from the inside out and make plays on the edge that way. We're not going to put him on the edge and all of a sudden he's going to run across the formation, track things down from behind. Not Noah Sewell. Could he shut down a 3rd down and 2? Absolutely. Could he make 1st and 10 turn into 2nd and 9? Absolutely. So, real important to know what type of linebacker that you get when you're looking at Noah Sewell. And he is somebody that was, again, if you did these things 8, 9, 10 months ago, he was one of the, he and Trenton Simpson were the 2 linebackers that you were going to see. And you saw them in the 1st round. And then all of a sudden, things started to adjust. But, he's real good at attacking, attacking blocks and being physical and kind of helping crush things inward up front. He's a big hitter, an explosive puncher. He can take on blockers. Wonder where he got that from. I'm thinking maybe he and Penny did some drills out in the backyard. I
don't doubt it.
Before the dinner bell got rang. But Noah Sewell's he's more of an old school product and somebody that's definitely of intrigue.
Yeah, he is. Let's take a look at him real quick, Coach. And a nice player. Those bright
here he is. I believe that's against the Beavers. And here you see him kind of corral something. He wore number 1 here towards the end of his career. Here you see him aligned outside the front. Well, in that last clip, he was aligned. So they moved him around a little bit. And I think maybe they were doing that to try to showcase things and be more of that modern fit at linebacker. He struggled at times when it came to being out on an island or being, involved real dynamically in pass dropping. That's not his forte. But, you saw it there at the very end, how he's done that. And yeah, he's made some plays into the quarterback rushing and stunning and blitzing too.
He's an outstanding prospect. All these guys are. And what I find, I think unique, I wouldn't say unique about this class, but it's interesting about this class is you can make an argument for, either Sanders or Simpson or even Henley as your top linebacker based on your team's need. And Campbell, Sewell, and Tua, I mean, they're very good players. They may be outstanding in your scheme. Linebackers almost becoming like cornerback anymore, Coach, right? I mean, it's like you didn't think about, at least, back in the day, you weren't thinking about, are they good in man or zone coverage? That's not what linebackers did. And it's just that position group's probably changed as much as any position group in football. How dynamic of an athlete you need to be now, and how versatile you often need to be successful at it. Noah Sewell brings a lot of positive traits. There are some issues, though. Let's talk about those.
He needs to become a better technician when it comes to being a tackler. So much of the modern schemes for linebackers, Drew, is that they have the ability to cover the quarterback. It's essential. It's basically how Kyler Murray is being taken out of, he's being taken out,
of the game,
of being super successful, is that he spied so well. And that forces him to throw. It forces him to get hurt. It forces him to run where he doesn't want to. All these kinds of things. And you've got to be a real good tackler in space to do that. Noah Sewell's not quite there yet. He's got a little bit of stiffness in that lower body. He's a limited athlete. Big, strong, tough kid, but not a tremendous athlete. I think his brother Penny might be a little bit more of a natural athlete than Noah is.
He's got about 70, 80 pounds on him.
He's just not rangy, Drew. He's just not rangy. And that presents its limitations. He's a sub-package player. Now, again, we'll go back. Now, if it's 3rd down and 1, or if it's at the goal line, I think you want Noah Sewell on the field. As a matter of fact, we've seen some clips. I saw plenty of clips when scouting through of him making plays on the goal line. He's real good when it comes to short yardage and needing to play the run. If you are down, let's say by 3, and you decide to punt with like inside 3 minutes to go and try to time somebody out, you want him on the field. You want him out there, at least on 1st and 2nd down. You want him out there. If you just go up and score and there's a minute to go, you don't want him on the field. Because he's not going to help you out that much. So yes, no, if they drafted Noah Sewell, they definitely have a mindset for him, but it will not be as an every down linebacker. I would say probably day 3, I think, is where his value's best at 4th. He may go up to 3rd if there's a run in the position seen as a premium.
And the way you just articulated, that's exactly why I don't think he'll be a Detroit Lion, because I really see his slot late 3rd round to mid 4th round. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe we have a 4th round pick this year.
So, not as of right now.
As of right now. So, and maybe that second, it's possible that 3rd round pick could end up being. I don't know. Not that I don't like Noah Sewell. I think the Lions are probably going to go in a different direction at that pick, depending on how the board shakes out. At least what I'm seeing now, I don't see them going linebacker at that spot. But I mean, it would be pretty cool if they did. I mean, because this is a very good football player. I mean, and we love the lineage. But aside from that, the guy can play football, and he's a good football player. But again, you make a great point. To me, if I'm drafting and I want an every down player, either on day 1 or day 2, my situational guys, my rotational guys, my special team guys, that's what I'm going to get in day 3 or a UDFA. That's not what I want as a GM for my team that high. But again, I'm being conservative here because I'm talking about the Lions still, and as good as they were this year and as good as we think they're going to be next year, there's still holes to fill. And to me, that's still a luxury pick if you take a guy that can't help you on every down necessarily, at least on a day 1 or day 2 guy. But I really like Noah Sewell a lot, and I would not be. It wouldn't bother me one bit, Coach, if they called his name on day 2 for the Lions. I like him too.
Sure.
So let's take a look now at another list of prospects here. These are the other guys we feel will definitely be on the board, and guys we need to take note of. And Coach, let's talk about some of them.
Well, some of these names, in different, if you like to play around with the mock draft simulators, you'll see them kind of pop up in different areas. Some are, rated above each other, and some are, so this order doesn't necessarily really, indicate, that it's going to go in this kind of order per se. DeMarvion Overshown, big kid out of Texas. Another guy that was kind of considered a day 2 prospect in the 2022 draft. He decided to come back. It really didn't change his draft status too much, but he's a guy that's kind of a household name. Muhammad Diabate out of Utah. We all got used to Devin Lloyd last year, and he ended up being like the first linebacker taken. And he was an exceptional football player. Muhammad Diabate is kind of cut out of the same cloth. Very, very similar in many, many respects. Maybe doesn't have some of that high-end athleticism and size that Lloyd has, but a very similar player. Owen Papo from Auburn. Kind of your quintessential old-time inside linebacker, size, 6'1", 225, kind of a filler, but also a pretty dynamic player. Another guy that was a rumored early day 3 prospect in 2022. And here he is in the 2023 draft. We shall see. He may have improved his stock a little bit. Now, here's a guy that was extremely productive at Cincy, and is Ivan Pace Jr., 6 foot 239. Now he's got tweener size. Is he a safety or is he a linebacker? Well, he's a linebacker. He's not going to be able to kind of give you some of those athletic profile. He's not the same athletic profile that a safety is. But he can thump and he can get there, and he is always right on top of things. So, Ivan Pace is somebody of intrigue. I'm guessing he may slide into day 3 because of his size, but he has day 2 productivity. Kind of a dark horse guy is a player, and I've only really seen him on YouTube clips because I just don't watch Big Sky football that much. But Marte Mapo out of Sacramento State. Now he's pretty lean. He's 6'3", 210, kind of built like a receiver almost. Yeah. But boy, can he move the football field. And again, we're talking about that modern linebacker. The list. I encourage all of our viewers and listeners to kind of take a look at guys that on YouTube, like guys like Cam Jones out of Indiana, Michael Jones out of Syracuse, Mike Jones Jr. out of LSU. But the next player, and there's guys like Dorian Williams, who we really got to see in that Cotton Bowl with Tulane. And, he was part of getting that USC, offense off the field a few times. We definitely saw D. Winters play for TCU in that, wonderful Fiesta Bowl that our, U of M football fans are just so thrilled about. And just kidding there. And I know they're not, and I wasn't either.
No.
But D. Winters was a happy guy at the end of that. And, I know the mantra of Sonny Dykes this year was do your job. D. Winters definitely did his job. And I think he's going to have a job on Sundays come the fall, too. But the guy I am really, really intrigued about is Aubrey Miller out of Jackson State, 6'2", 225. Reason why I'm so excited about him, we're very familiar with the guy that was the star linebacker from the 2021 Jackson State football team. And his name is James Houston. And he is a Detroit Lion. And he is one of the league leader in sacks and was second, I believe, in sacks among rookies in, this year in 2022. Ahead of guys by the name of Trayvon Walker and Kayvon Thibodeau. So, Aubrey Miller is definitely somebody is going to get drafted as well. Exciting group of linebackers.
They are. The one guy that I know took some criticism after the combine was Cam Jones out of Indiana. I don't know if you had any thoughts on Cam Jones, Coach. But I know it's all about what's on the tape and how you play the game. But yeah, he took some criticism, and I'm not sure how warranted it is. But at the end of the day, I mean, anytime you have a subpar 40 or whatever, there's going to be some eyebrows raised. But it's what's on tape that really matters. I mean, we saw a lot of Cam Jones in the Big Ten, and I know we like him. But I'm not super concerned about him. But this is a very good list here. And yeah, I agree with you on Aubrey Miller. I mean, that's, we're going to trust Brad Holmes on this, man. This is where, in Detroit, we're very fortunate. We have a guy like that has just an eye for talent, and there's no doubting it. And it's not just here in Detroit; he did in LA too with the Rams. So definitely like him. But Coach, let's wrap this one up. Your thoughts overall on this group? Obviously we talked about it early on, but your thoughts overall on this prospect class in general.
Well, the game's just not played the same way anymore. I mean, everyone kind of knows that. I mean, that's pretty obvious. With the RPO, you don't just see these downhill runs from tackle to tackle like you used to. We kind of demonstrate that a little bit more than a lot of other teams do. It just looks a little bit different. You have the zone read concept. You have your power O, or really in many ways, it's got some wing T principles to it. And then your RPO stuff. So these linebackers have to be able to move like a safety. They have to. And you look at a guy like Jack Hamill's like, well, how does he do that? You kind of said he doesn't do that well. Not necessarily his forte, but I tell you what, he keeps things in front of him and it gets stopped. There's a lot of different ways these guys are achieving their objectives, and we're productive, real good linebackers at the college level. Some, at a really, quickly. Dane Headley. He's a wide receiver a couple of years ago.
I know.
So it just shows you the kind of athletes that they're using now to play linebacker. Dennis Gibson and Chris Spielman aren't the type of guys that are back there. Even like Stephen Tulloch would be kind of somebody, we shall see. Alex Anzalone has shown to be kind of that kind of linebacker. So it's been a question of mine that we are going to probably, are we looking to add to this position group? I think we are. But I do think it's something that what kind of linebacker are we looking for?
Exactly, and that's what's unique about this class. And I'll say that again, I do feel that way. We don't have the can't miss guy per se, but we've got a lot of really good players here, but they're niche players. So, and that's okay, like you said, but it makes it a little more complicated. I think for all the GMs, I think that's gonna be an issue with this group, is that we love this part of their game, but we really need X, Y, and Z, and this other prospect has that, but maybe they don't have A, B, and C. So
Right.
That's just how the game is played, right? And we'll see how it shakes out. Coach, great job today, as always. Great coverage, folks. We got a lot more to cover before April 25th. So, and that's when we do our first round mock draft. April 27th is the actual day one first round of the draft on a Thursday night. But we got a lot of ground to cover, and if you missed some of them, the other ones, go back and check them out, whether it be on audio or on YouTube. Either way, we'll take it. For Coach Andy Shield, Marine City Mariners, my name is Drew, folks. This has been the Sports Peninsula Podcast. To subscribe to the podcast, simply click the subscribe button on your screen now and give us a like on our YouTube channel. You can also follow our audio podcast on multiple platforms, including Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts, just to name a few. Give us a follow on Twitter. Our handle is @SportsPodcast. You can also find us on Instagram to check out our latest releases. Thank you again for listening and watching. Remember, when you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula Podcast.